Subaru hasn't had a 3-row SUV since 2014 when the outgoing B9 Tribeca left us. It's really one of the ugliest SUVs on the market. They're back with this new 2019 Subaru Ascent, and it's actually one of the best looking SUVs on the market. They definitely learned their lesson, and this brand new 2019 Subaru Ascent is no longer the ugly duckling of the category. Instead of going with some odd front end design, this is the really classic Subaru look it shares with a lot of their cars. And when you look down the side, this has got really great proportions, really clean design. There's nothing really exceptional about the design, but it's just a really handsome SUV. Subaru is known for their boxer engines, which have the cylinders opposed instead of in a V or in line. What that does is allows the engine to be set much lower in the vehicle, which helps lower the center of gravity, improves the handling, and that sort of thing. This is a 2.4 liter turbocharged boxer engine making 260 horsepower. It's connected to a CVT transmission, which, as many of you know, is not my favorite, but they've done a good job of tuning it. Overall, this does a great job motivating this large SUV around. It's actually pretty quick, and the mileage is better than the 6-cylinder in the long gone Tribeca. One thing Subaru's often lagged behind its competitors is in interior fit and finish. And with so many choices in this category, they need to have stepped that game up. Let's hop inside and see if they did. The first thing you notice hopping into this Ascent is just how nice this interior is. They've chosen really good materials all throughout. You've got some really nice leather on the door panels here, wood inserts, center on the door panel, aluminum trimmer on the center console. It's not too busy of a design. You've got some contrasting stitching here and there, a nice leather wrapped wheel. Really just everything, again, is not groundbreaking in design, but it's all executed really well with really nice materials. You absolutely can tell that Subaru took their time putting this Ascent together. Instead of just facelifting a Tribeca to stay in the market, they chose to exit the market and spend 4 years really developing something good, and you can feel that just by driving this thing. One minor gripe about the interior is you've got white backlit buttons here, you've got white lights on the door panels, but there's one section here on the left with red backlit buttons. It's obviously a part that they pulled out of the bin that they use in their other vehicles. It just feels a little off, especially with how nice the rest of the interior is. This 2.4 liter with 260 horsepower might seem like not enough engine for this size vehicle, but as you can see, this is quite quick. And what they've done with the CVT is actually let it hold different spots within the gear ratios for a second, so it doesn't feel like a typical CVT. It actually feels a little bit more like a regular transmission. You can feel it kind of crisply change between gears. Oftentimes with CVTs, those who have experienced them, they kind of feel like they're broken, like it's slipping or something like that. You never get that sense here. And CVTs always work better with torquey engines. This turbocharged 2.4 liter has 277 foot-pounds of torque, so it actually works quite nicely. Technology-wise, you've got some good safety features here. Although they call the lane departure warning a heads-up display, it really just projects a yellow light on the dash, and the light on the side that you're heading towards will flash. It does get your attention. You've also got blind spot monitors. You've got tons of cameras. There's actually a rear view mirror camera that you can use as opposed to just the mirror glass. It is quite a zoomed in camera view, so things seem a lot closer in the mirror than they are in real life. Other technology in here is a little bit lacking. So you've got plenty of connectivity. You've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You've got a touchscreen infotainment system here, but it's a little bit slow and laggy, and the actual menu screen looks a bit dated. It looks kind of like an aftermarket radio you could get about 10 years ago. They've definitely got some room for improvement here. Even though all the features are there, it's just not quite easy enough to use. One thing there's a ton of in here are charging ports. You've got two 2.1 amp here, two in the back seat. 2 in the third row, you've got a 110 volt outlet in the back seat here, although we weren't really able to get our laptop to charge using it for some reason. So there's just a ton of options to charge your devices in here, which is very nice. Another nice feature, Subaru's always had this center display, which used to be kind of a cheap screen that really didn't match up with the rest of the vehicle. And now you've got a nice LCD up here. They've taken advantage of that and use a front view camera when you're trying to park. So it gives you another view. You've got the rear view camera on the main screen, and you've got the front view camera on that smaller screen. There's a nice LCD as well between the analog gauges. So lots of different informational screens here. It is a little bit busy, and there are a lot of buttons all throughout the vehicle. Could be cleaned up a little bit, but overall, this is a huge improvement for Subaru. Road noise and wind noise are quite good too, and this actually handles pretty well. Subaru is definitely known for their handling in their cars, but they've actually taken some of that. Got a really nimble SUV here for something that's got 3 rows. Over these bumpy Chicago roads, the ride quality is quite good too, especially when you consider how this handles. Obviously, with any Subaru, you're gonna have full-time all-wheel drive and actually a really well-tuned full-time all-wheel drive system. You have that here as well. We got the chance to drive it in the wet. You know, when slipperier conditions, you definitely feel the all-wheel drive system working. It helps keep the tail from sliding out. The whole car might slide a little bit to the side, but it helps you maintain control. With any 3-row SUV, you want usable second and third rows, and you have that here. The second row is available with either 2 separate bucket seats or with a bench seat, so you can have this configured as either a 7 or an 8 passenger vehicle. This one, our test vehicle, has the bucket seats in the back, and they're actually really comfortable. They recline, there's a center armrest, and it actually creates a lot more space in that second row by not having the bench go all the way across. Ingress and egress in the third row is actually quite easy. The door opening is wide enough and the seat folds forward enough that it makes it easy to get in and out of. It does suffer a little bit on cargo space, only 17 cubic feet with the third row. Obviously you can fold that down, but there are some nice pockets underneath the floor of the trunk to put some items. Overall, for a 3-row SUV that's not gigantic, this thing has a lot of usable interior space. Another thing that Subaru built into this Ascent is the highest towing capacity of any Subaru ever before. 5,000 pounds is what they rate this at. It's actually got a pretty unique feature, which is automatic trailer sway control. So if the trailer does start swaying behind you, it uses the brakes on the individual wheels of the vehicle to help straighten things out. A nice safety feature on top of everything else. We didn't get a chance to tow anything with it, but 5,000 pounds is a pretty significant capacity. You might notice a lot of light coming in here, and that's because of this huge panoramic roof. Again, not something that all competitors offer, so it's a nice feature to see such a large roof. It especially looks great when you're sitting in that second row. Subaru definitely borrowed features from a lot of different types of vehicles. You've even got this rear view mirror, which is straight out of a lot of SUVs, but it helps you look at all of the rear seat passengers. If you've got your kids back there, this is actually quite a nice feature. Sometimes boxer engines can have a bit of an off-balance vibration to them when you're driving, but they really tune that out here. It's got a pretty decent sound quality to it, especially for a 4-cylinder. Again, it's really impressive how well it accelerates. This is rated at 20 miles per gallon city, 26 highway, 22 combined, but we're not really seeing that. We've driven this about 200 miles all in the city, and we're averaging right now 17.6 miles per gallon. So obviously a lot of stop and go in Chicago is going to make the mileage worse. Maybe in a city with less stoplights you'd get better, but it's still, at least ratings wise, they're good numbers. It remains to be seen what you would get on the highway. One option that I might consider skipping and saving a little bit money on is this Harman Kardon premium audio. It doesn't really sound that great. It's probably going to end up being part of an option package that you're going to want anyway, but our test version here is the middle trim touring version with lots of options added on it. Ends up coming up to about 45,000 sticker. You could probably option one of these if you went with the top of the range limited and added a bunch more options. You could probably push up to close to 50,000, which is quite a lot for a Subaru, but you are getting a lot for that money, and it certainly is a good looking SUV with a very luxurious interior. So Subaru is definitely trying to elevate their position in this marketplace. Might be why they called this the Ascent. We get to drive a lot of SUVs. They're clearly the most popular segment on the market, and Subaru's been out of the market for quite some time. The sort of forgotten about B9 Tribeca was a bit of a mistake. They really needed to nail this Ascent to grab a piece of this huge market. And they've done a great job. This is actually a huge step for the brand. You've got an attractive SUV with good power and efficiency, plenty of technology, and some really, really nice interior fit and finish. This may be just a small step for the SUV market, but it's a huge leap for Subaru. This 2019 Ascent is in the conversation for SUV of the Year.